Yesterday was Yom Teruah, now it's Shabbat, so we call that in Israel double Shabbat. It's 8:45 in the morning, and the weather, I got myself knocked out. I was sitting outside since about 6:45, and it's too hot and muggy. It knocked me out. I'm drinking a lot of liquid now. I wasn't drinking enough, and there was so much news to go through. Gosh, I'm going to try to convey it to you and tie it to scripture, and we'll talk about what to do when the wars and the other things coming too. Not just the wars, the hurricanes, the floods. It seems like a lot of the world is on fire, and a lot of the world is flooding, and much of the world is getting ready to go to war. I mean, that we know. So the high today will be 96-ish, low is 79. Our humidity now is 68%. That's high. That's why it knocks you out. You feel like a wet rag, you know. And that's, punishment weather. I don't believe the weather was like this in the New Testament. It's just terrible weather, and the whole world is having terrible weather. But Israel is not getting fires, we're not getting floods, we're not at war. It doesn't realistically look like we're going to be attacked by Hezbollah or Gaza. It's my fault I didn't push enough fluids, but I put my energy patches on and I'm guzzling water, so I should be okay in a couple of minutes. Plus now I'm in air conditioning. And as a matter of fact, I might want to crank the air conditioning down at 1 degree to get things cooler quicker. Oh, there we go. Nice cold air. Whew. Gotta watch that with the fluids, Gotta watch that. I didn't pay attention to it this morning. I had 1 cup of coffee, and that was my fluids, basically. Yafa's got a new game she plays with me, and that they love going outside. And I take them for little walks, and they love it, Chief and Yafa. And used to be, before I took them for walks, Yafa and Chief would stay asleep till 8:30 in the morning. Because they didn't really care about going outside. It wasn't that much fun. Now, they can't wait to get outside, and Yafa saves her going to the bathroom stuff so she could find the right golden toilet outside to go to, and Chief just goes everywhere. So, they enjoy that, and when it's not that hot, I'll take them out at least 2 or 3 times a day, but in the middle of the day, I don't like to go walking around in 90+ degree weather with them and taking a stroll. I don't need that. You come back, you're sopping wet, So I don't enjoy that. So so now she gets up at 6:30 or earlier and starts incessantly barking. I'm starting to come around. Please pray for me to recover from this and feel better. I appreciate it. Okay. I don't feel tired. I just don't feel like myself. I feel like kind of shaky or something. And that's probably from sitting out in the high humidity and the heat and not drinking enough. So I'll come around. I feel better now already. So. Well, it's come to the point where I need to do a video like this, and it's going to be heavy with Bible prophecy. It's not just going to be like a prepper thing. Okay? Alright. Let's do our praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 I had a really good night's sleep last night, too. Okay, so where do we begin? I think the way to start is to go to the chat. And the live stream, the chat, whatever you want to call it. Make sure things are going well over there. And to start is we got sound and picture. And let me do a tiny bit of housekeeping in the chat, which doesn't take long. There's a lot, and I'm going to tell you today. And it's going to be chock full of Bible, I think. I have to go the way the Lord leads, but I imagine there's going to be a lot of scriptures coming up. Okay, I pinned up at the top what I needed to about offerings and email. My email address, if someone wants to write me, I don't want to hear from any false believers, though. You'll wind up getting tossed. Oh, let me sip of coffee here. It's pretty hot. The coffee's hot. These mugs are kind of great. I don't know where I got them. Amazon, I think. They were cheap. They're insulated and made out of metal or aluminum or steel. I don't know what they are. And they're great. And they keep hot things hot and cold things cold. Ah, that's hot. Ooh. Okay. Let's go through what is going on today. And it's new stuff. It's not a rehash of the old stuff, okay? First thing is there's all kinds of rumors about what happened in Hawaii with the fires. Well, another island's on fire now. So a lot of these conspiracy theories are, I think, out the window. Okay. There's a lot of hoopla about why the governor or the head of the emergency services in Maui didn't sound sirens. Instead, they were giving people SMS messages and things like that. Well, he said he didn't want to sound the siren because people would just go run in all directions and they could have ran in the wrong place, and they were giving them details with the SMS messages, you know, emergency broadcast stuff, and then they could give them directions where to go and where not to go, which is very likely true. But there's another, Oahu has fires now too in Hawaii, so come on, let's not hit too hard on the conspiracy theories, because, you know, they were saying that China came with balloons shooting lasers causing fires. Well, I don't think so. I think that's just blah, 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 people that want to get, you know, hits on their websites and channels and stuff like that. The elite did not have their houses burned. There was a big list of mansions owned by the elite that didn't burn. It could be that they lived in a certain neighborhood that didn't burn. If the Chinese really did come and cause fires, which I really have no basis to believe at all, then they would have hit the elite first, probably, you know. I think it was a function of heat wave and dryness, and the Lord's doing it. That's really the bottom line. Okay, the Lord's doing it. And there's fires breaking out all over the place. So does it mean the Chinese are doing it all over the place? I doubt it. I give that an extremely, I would say, I don't consider it at all as a viable option. It's just conspiracy theorists that want to get attention to their websites and their channels, and they're barking all this stuff. I don't believe them. It happened, of course, to the end times, and that's why it happened. Okay, they put the light rail up in Israel and Tel Aviv, which was 7 years coming, and then they shut it on Shabbat, and the protesters in the hundreds were out protesting the closing of it on Shabbat. Anything the ultra-Orthodox do, the protesters are against now. They can't stand them, okay? The ultra-Orthodox have gone to the point of getting Israel mad at them, and they're in a minority, a small minority, relatively speaking, and there's a lot of people that can't stand them right now. Now, they're saying that Hurricane Hillary, not Clinton, has risen to a category 4. It's still offshore. They're saying it'll start hitting on Sunday. And they're saying they're looking at 130 mile an hour winds. Now, having been through many hurricanes in Florida, I want to tell you 130 mile an hour winds is time to get out of Dodge. I would ride out a 1 or a 2. I lived on the water. It was a bayou, like an inlet kind of lake thing. And I had a golf course in my front yard. And so my backyard was on the water, literally on the water, absolutely on the water. It was nice. I had a golf course out my front door, and I had a water in the back. At one time I had a boat, and I had a pier there, and I could fish off the pier. There was crab traps there, which I didn't use, and occasionally I released the crabs, so I wasn't eating them, and stuff like this. And then I moved to Israel. No, I'm just kidding, man. So it was frightening having these hurricanes. I used to wake up during the night. My wife Rivka would be concerned. I had a big flashlight, and I'd go out there and look at the water level, and I'd see the pier. We had a pier was about 20 feet long, about 5 feet wide, 4 or 5 feet wide, and it usually sat, probably at 3 feet over the water, 2 feet, 3 feet, probably 3 feet, depending on the day. But and I remember seeing them many times. The water, the dock, many feet underwater, like 5, 6 feet. And I prayed all the time, and the water never came into my yard. But now at a Hurricane 3, I would debate leaving or staying. I didn't always leave. Okay. At a 3, to me it was maybe go, maybe not. Okay. If it was a 4 or a 5, I'd go. I wouldn't be there. 4 or 5, I was out of town. I used to like to go to Universal Studios or Disney, usually Universal Studios, and stay there and ride the storm out. I remember once I came, we beat a storm, and Rivka and May, we checked into the room. It was the Portofino Hotel, a real luxurious hotel they had there. And we went down, and they had a really big jacuzzi, and we were sitting in the jacuzzi, and we started talking. I lost my network. I'll have to change networks if this keeps happening. 4-wheel drives are really good for getting out of hurricanes because you can drive through pretty deep water, and the Lincoln weighed about 500 pounds, so that's not good. But if you're on a road, it doesn't make much difference. So anyway, I remember driving through. We left, and I had to drive for maybe 20, 30 minutes in the storm. And then the storm hooked around. I don't know, the route we took, we had to drive through it again about an hour and a half later. and I was going in four-wheel drive, and I was going about 30, 35 miles an hour on the interstate. And this is dangerous because other cars may not see you. The rain was that bad, and the wind's trying to move your car over. But 5,500-pound four-wheel drive doesn't move very easily. But I mean, there's a limit to that, And if you pull off the side of the road, you got to be very careful. Some other jerk will pull off and not see you and hit you. So, or swerve off the road, So it's dangerous, I was sitting there really alert for a while. I was younger, So I was. Then we got out of there, and then we were in pretty good shape. So now Mexico gets hurricanes. Okay, San Diego, Los Angeles, and now they're saying Las Vegas is going to get hit. Don't get storms. I don't think the people in Las Vegas and San Diego know what a hurricane is. I don't know when the last time they got hit with a hurricane. It could have been many, many decades ago, maybe 50, 80 years ago. I think I heard 80 years or something. It's rare. Hurricanes usually form around Africa, and then they move over across the ocean, and they get into the Caribbean, and then there's warm water, and they heat up, and the hurricane season usually ends in October, but most of the time by mid-September it's over, usually, but not always. Now, mid-August is prime, hurricane weather. No doubt about it, okay? So we're going over there, and so now it's not normal to storm that way. It's not normal. I'm getting in trouble with the network. Let me fix this, okay? It'll be a little bit, we may have a quick outage or something, right? I think we'll be okay. Well, I got to open the door. We're having some kind of network issue here. If I open the door, I think we'll be in very good shape. Let me shut some fans. I don't know what's wrong with the networks, but I have a strong feeling I fixed it. Otherwise, we keep getting cut off. I'm sorry. Usually it works fine with the door closed, but rather than run around troubleshooting, I just do it the easy way. So I put the air conditioning on outside in the other area too. So they're not going to be prepared for this. That's the problem. You know, in Florida, when we knew the hurricanes were coming, we took all our cars and filled them up because you have power outages and the pumps are electric and you don't get gas. I don't know if they know that in LA. So I would usually have 2 or 3 cars and I'd fill them up before, so we had 2 full tanks just in case. And we kept a running supply of various foods in the house. I did have MREs, yes, I did. And I had a few boxes of those, and I had tons of canned food, and we had the refrigerator full, but the refrigerator, of course, can be a problem when the power goes out. And we had a grill with charcoal briquettes to cook on. I didn't have a generator, never bought one, but a lot of people did. I didn't have one. And we had power outage for a day or maybe 2 days at times. That was it. But, you know, the power outage will be bad for California. And they're going to get mudslides, I'm pretty sure. They're talking 10 inches of rain, which is horrific. And I think houses are going to be destroyed. And there's a lot of the elite in Southern California that have houses on beaches like Malibu and other places, which I'm reasonably sure are going to be very badly affected. When I talk about houses on the beach, their houses are where the sand ends. And my experience of looking at damage after hurricanes in Florida is houses within 1 block of where the sand ends are the ones that get devastated. Even in very heavy, like 4 and 5 hurricanes, they're the ones that get the damage. If you're 2 blocks in, you might get some water problems and you might not. If you're 3 or 4 blocks in, you're not going to have it. It's not going to be a problem, okay? People think you got to go miles in. Now, if you're 5 or 10 miles from the coast, the amount of damage, you could even ride out a 5. As soon as the hurricanes hit the shore, they drop 1 point. As soon as they touch down, boom, they go from a 4 to a 3 or a 3 to a 2. Then you go inland, you know, I don't know, even 1 or 2 miles, they drop another point. And then you go 4, 5, 6 miles, another point, you know. So a category 4, 5s are rare. A 4 hits land, it's immediately a 3, you're 10 miles away. You're going to be taking a tropical storm, more than likely. Which means you're going to get ugly rain, the wind's going to blow, and that's maybe some branches will come down. You might lose a power line. That's it. I went through hurricanes in Tallahassee, which is relatively inland. And you'd occasionally have, now the other times I was by Panama City, so right on the beach, but in Tallahassee I was inland, and not much would happen. You know, bad rain and wind and nothing. I mean, you know, you usually wouldn't get power outages or anything. Once upon a time they had some flooding and stuff, but, you know, I generally lived in townhouse apartments then, and nothing. I mean, you know, we don't get anything. So, but there's a lot of people who live right by the beach in Southern California, and they're going to get hit. And I don't know if these people know how to behave in hurricanes. Are they going to know to go gas up your cars? Now, I've seen people gassing up cars that they go with jerry cans in a pickup truck and be filling 4 or 5 of those, 6 of those up, making everybody wait. You know, and they were showing signs of aggression, and because people were getting angry at them, you know. There's jackasses all over the place, you know. I remember the sheriff would say, you can't go outside, there's a curfew, because we're worried about looting, and that lasted maybe 12 hours, 18 hours or something, probably 12. and they had the sheriff patrolling. They didn't want anybody on the street. Now the stores were usually, I would say, 3, 4, 5 miles from the water, and they would normally stay open. They didn't have much problem. Okay, so 130-mile-an-hour winds from a 4 is probably going to go down right away to 110, 115. So they're going to have problems with the structures with the wind. Okay, I remember seeing a hotel that was built on the water that got hit with a big hurricane back in the 90s, and there was nothing left of the hotel, basically. It got, walls were gone, and it was built right over the sand, right to the water. So, it's going to be bad. Now they're talking about hitting Las Vegas with floods. Las Vegas doesn't know from floods. When did a hurricane ever hit Las Vegas? I don't know, 100 years ago, 300 years ago? I don't know if it ever hit. I never heard of it. It's the middle of the desert. It's far from the coast. And to what extent is it going to hit? It's not going to hit at a 4 or a 5, but I don't know what it will hit. And it could just drop massive amounts of rain with high winds, and what will that do? I don't know. We don't have a history. I don't know what it'll do. But I could imagine it could be very scary for Las Vegas. I don't think those hotels are built for hurricane sustaining. And they're gonna suffer. There's people that are in parts of Florida that live right at the water, and they build their houses on stilts, like 20 feet up, right? Really, I mean, tons of houses like this, and they put a bunch of wooden stilts or concrete pillars in there, and they put their houses up high, so when the water comes in, it would rarely get to them, and generally it doesn't come in with enough force to knock the pillars down, but it does happen, but not common. I was once on a cruise, and a hurricane came, and they extended the cruise by 3 days, and the hurricane hit southern Florida area. So we departed from the Orlando area, and we couldn't go back to Orlando. We had to land in Miami, and they had buses to take us back to Orlando when we had our cars. And I drove through all the destruction from the hurricane in southern Florida, and the mobile homes were gone. They were devastated. Now, there are mobile homes that they sell recently that could sustain 130 miles an hour. They have all kinds of bracing procedures. I think they use thick steel cables and concrete, and they put rivets or big screws in the concrete with eye hooks, and they tightly use the big thick metal cables to anchor the mobile home to the concrete so it doesn't go anywhere. And then they have storm windows on it, and they secure the roof better. One of the problems you get is the garage doors blow off. Now, there are people that, I had a friend that was in construction, and he was doing this service where they call it hurricane proof your house. One of the first things they do is put a heavy, secure garage door on that you can bolt into the sides of the garage. They put braces there, and at the bottom you can push it into the concrete a few inches with big steel bolts, so the garage door is not blowing away. When the garage door blows away, then the wind could get in the house. Usually there's a thin door protecting the house and the garage, and I imagine a smart hurricane proofer, just in case it happened, would put a nice strong metal door in there with all kinds of bolts to keep it in place, and the concrete and everything. You have bolts that come on the sides and on the top and on the bottom to keep it from blowing out, but generally it blows out, and the wind gets in the house, and then that's it for your roof. The same with the windows. Suppose the window's out and then it gets in the roof and then the roof's gone and then you're in a lot of trouble. So you put these hurricane windows in, which are very, very secure. I think they're made out of a plastic or something, and they can sustain a piece of wood flying into it at like 100 miles an hour or something like that. Because if you get a broken window from flying debris, the wind gets in, goodbye roof, goodbye house usually. So I never did that because I was a renter. But it's a good idea, if you want to ride out the hurricanes to do it. But that's not entirely smart because the hurricane proofing the house doesn't help you with the water. And it could flood. I mean, I've seen videos of people, they go up and they got to stand on the roof of the house and wait for a rescue. Another thing you could do is keep a boat. When the area floods and you got to leave your house, what are you going to do? Go swimming? No, they have a boat. They have like a 16-foot boat with a motor and oars in case the motor's gone, and they get in the boat and they just, you could take the boat and tie it up and stay there, but that's dangerous. You just float around in your boat or drive around. So if it starts coming tomorrow, the intelligent thing for people to do would be to go, at least 50, 60 miles away from the coast, or maybe even 35 or 40 miles, and get a hotel and ride it out. But I don't know if they're doing that. Trying to evacuate large cities like LA and San Diego, what happens is you get traffic backed up for a long time, like days. You could be stuck for a whole day in traffic, 24 hours, and people start running out of gas. Gas stations start running out of gas, and power goes out, and you can't get gas. I do not think the people in Southern California know what's going on, especially a lot of the poor people in the big ghettos down there. They're not going to go and go get a hotel room for $150 someplace, and a lot of them don't have a car. And it's going to be a disaster. And it's supposedly tomorrow. And with Las Vegas, I have no idea what's going to happen. Those casinos are on ground level. You walk in the door, and you're in the casino. They don't have them elevated up. Water will come in. Gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. The amount of damage that Las Vegas would take with flooding would go, I think, to $1 trillion or more. It would be, these hotels are so expensive. They're so elaborate, and then when the power goes out, people are going to be 20, 30 stories up with no electricity, no water, no lights, dark. How do they get down? I mean, old people with strollers and babies. I mean, it's going to be horrible. And casinos are going to take a bad loss. Do the casinos in Las Vegas have flood damage insurance? Why would they? Maybe some of them do because of mortgages and financing they have to have. I don't know. But then insurance companies could go broke. What does Las Vegas have? About 50 really elaborate, multi-million, billion-dollar hotels? Probably about 50. What are they going to do? Then roads could wash out. It's going to be a monstrous problem. And I don't know what the government's doing. I know in the past, after people have hurricane damage, they live in tents. And the government does not generally come along and say, well, we'll build new housing for you. They just stay in tents. So what's the most intelligent thing to do if you live in these areas? Watch the news and the weather. And if you still see that it's going to be a 4 when it hits land, that's very bad. If you see it's going to be a 2 or a 1 when it hits land, that's not going to be very bad. But you could have an amazing amount of rain, even though it's a Category 1 or even a tropical storm, which will cause dangerous, deadly flooding. So you got to understand the hurricane calibration for Category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is based on wind. As the wind speed increases, they raise the category. They don't usually go by rain. So you got a double threat. They're really scary. They're really scary. Tree limbs come off, power poles fall, the sewage can flood, the water can be contaminated. We used to fill a bathtub up, or 2 bathtubs up with water, so you'd have a bucket so you could flush your toilet you take a bucket or an old milk container, put it in the bathtub filled with water, and you put it in the tank behind the toilet. You pour it in there and then you could flush. The flushing works, but the water won't fill up. You got to fill it with your own water. And then we had some buckets full of water, plastic buckets, and I had bottles of water, bottles and bottles of water with beverages. That's the most important thing, is you have beverages, so you don't, you could go a long time without food. I mean, you could go a week, easy, But if you don't have water, you're going to start getting run down in hours, Generally, when there's a hurricane, you don't have hot weather. Before the hurricane comes, it's 90 degrees, 95 degrees. It's going to drop down to 70 or something like that, real quick. Real quick. And then I remember the eye of the hurricane. Now, this is a scary thing. When the eye comes over, the rain stops, the sun comes out, and the winds are not there. You might have a half hour, an hour and a half, or something like that, and then the storm's going to come again. It's bad, It's not good. It's rough, These things I know from. I also lived in San Francisco for many years. I know from earthquakes. The big difference is the earthquake happens all of a sudden. You don't know when it's happening. Your bed starts shaking. The house, what it would sound like to me was sifting sand. You'd hear that first. That was probably the earth moving. And then the shaking would start. And, little ones like a 3 or a 4 on the earthquake scale, would be a quick shake, and it'd be rather scary. When you started getting up 5 and higher, they would last a long time. I was standing in a mall once, and a hurricane came, and there was a woman I never saw before standing near me, and she just grabbed onto me. She got so scared. Then when it stopped, she was apologizing like crazy. I told her, it's okay. She got so scared she wasn't behaving socially anymore, I was in a car. It was an Audi 5000 around 1979, 80, and I was on an overpass in Oakland, which is on the other side of the bay from San Francisco. I was working, and I was stopped on an overpass. It was, not a high one, maybe 40 feet or something, and stopped at a light, and the car starts shaking. I said, what the heck? I thought my brakes were going out, right? So the first thing I did is I threw it in park. It's still shaking. I turned the key off. I don't know what was going on. And then I get out of the car, and it's shaking on the ground. So I said, oh, it's an earthquake. Here I'm on an overpass, and the thing's shaking, And that was probably around the 4 to 5 or something like that. It wasn't that big, Now, I went through the big earthquake that broke the freeways and the Bay Bridge. The parts of the bridge from the upper level collapsed on the lower level, and people got trapped. That was a 6.9, and I lived far from the city. I was living in a town called Concord, which is about 20 miles from San Francisco, but going over the Bay Bridge. It was a rental house. We had a swimming pool, the swimming pool was throwing water all over the place, and the foundation that held the pool around it cracked. People saw the earth open and were looking down in the earth. I had the regular telephones went out. I had an 800 number, and family were calling me on that to see if we were okay. We had no power. Well, if you had a battery radio, you could listen to what was going on. And it was pretty scary. I was in a living room, and we had sliding glass doors to the patio in the backyard, and I saw them move like this. They didn't move an inch or two, they moved many inches each way. It was scary. I thought it was over. I thought the house was going to fall on me. And it went maybe 30 seconds. It was long. And then came the aftershocks. The 800 number was working, but the local numbers didn't. And we didn't have cell phones. Did I have a cell phone back then? I had a cell phone that was a big thing in the 80s. I might have had a cell phone, but I don't think so. This was about 1989 or something. It was really scary. It was scary. And it was a scary thing. But you don't have any notice with an earthquake, it just shows up. Okay? The hurricanes, you have days of notice you could prepare. So if you're in an area where this is going to happen, the best thing to do is pay attention to the weather and the news, because in America they're pretty accurate about that stuff. They can't usually tell you what the hurricane's going to be when it makes landfall till about 12 or even 8 hours before. If it's 12 hours before, 8 hours before, they're usually very accurate. And if you see you're getting a big powerhouse, now this thing that's a 4 could intensify to a 5. You see the water with all this heat waves has been heated up, and that feeds the hurricanes. So it could easily go to a 5. It doesn't have to go to a 3. It could stay at a 4. At a 3, it's plenty dangerous, but nothing like a 4. A 5 is forget about it. I mean, just forget about it. The devastation, the damage would be incredible. You don't want to mess with a 5. They don't rate them over a 5, but since we're in end times, we might see something come in over a 5. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. This is bad. The birth pangs say great in Luke 21, great earthquakes in diverse places. It says great. So we may be seeing a lot of big earthquakes coming up on us too. I don't know. Maybe we had them already. So between the fires and the floods, it's incredible. And the deserts are flooding like in Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries. It's incredible. And the fires in Canada are pretty ugly. Montana has fires now. Oregon, people have smoke inhalation issues from the smoke. It's just really bad. Okay. So if the storm continues on its projected or usual path, it'll hit Vegas. They're saying that this is going to bring what they're calling once in a century, which means, it doesn't mean literal, it means it's a very, very rare storm event. 10 inches of rain to Southern California on Sunday, plus strong winds and storm surges up to 9 feet on the beach. That means these beach houses are going to get badly damaged to the point where the houses could get trashed between the wind and the floods and the surge. And those are the elite. Rest assured, the poor people don't have houses on the beach. And the houses on the beach in a lot of these places, like a Malibu area, they're two-level houses that look like townhouses, and they sell for 11, $12 million because they're right on the beach, and they're not real elaborate mansions, they're simple houses. Mar-a-Lago might get it. He's he's in Florida though, so back to Israel for a second. Smotrich is legalizing, or he's trying to, 155 outposts in the West Bank that are illegal. They're not all illegal. I don't know what he's doing. They'd have to be if he's legalizing them. That's going to get the nations up in arms. The Biden administration's going to go nuts over this. I watched a video briefly this morning about a woman. Her name is Svetlana. I put her video up on Telegram. It comes from YouTube. It's a YouTube video, and she put it up, I think, within a day. And she takes you through a supermarket in Russia and shows you she didn't go to a high-end supermarket where the oligarchs go. She went to where the working people go. And she showed you the prices, and she said they still have not yet raised the prices, but because the ruble just plummeted, they raised some prices. So the ruble is worth about 1 penny, American penny, 1 cent. So it dropped in half recently, very quickly. So she was showing what they got to pay for things, and the prices that she was paying for things like olive oil and stuff like that were like half what we pay in Israel now. But the wages there are very low. So she said they're also going to be raising the prices. They may not have had time to raise them yet. So they could put a price freeze where America's done this, where you can't raise prices. But what the Russian stores would probably do is strip the shelves and just keep the stuff in the warehouse, put some things out and other things not put out, and wait for higher prices. And they might go with a black market scenario like that as well. So this is another issue that Russia is suffering from, and it's going to take probably a week or two to really impact the people in Russia. So their food prices are probably going to double, and they're, she said that she used to spend 1,000 rubles a week on food. And she's got money. This gal's got a big YouTube channel. She's making money. She's some blonde that puts herself in bikinis and short shorts on the video and that kind of thing, an attractive young woman, and she speaks broken English, and I guess a lot of people watch her because she runs around with bikinis and that kind of thing. But she's also a smart person, and she gives you a lot of insights into what's going on in Russia economically. I got it on my Telegram. You can find it. She's pretty good, and it's a YouTube video. So Russia's running into big trouble. You have to understand, big trouble. When I'm telling you big, I'm talking grandiose. When people have their children go to bed at night crying because they're hungry, eventually the kid will fall asleep. The crying knocks them out, People go out and grab a gun or a pitchfork and they get rid of the government, especially in a place like Russia. And that puts Putin in a very bad situation where the people are going to want to overthrow the government. And what does he do? He's drafting everybody in the army. That's not real popular. They're losing a tremendous amount of soldiers killed and wounded in Ukraine. And Ukraine on a regular basis now, a regular basis is sending drones into Moscow. That's like Washington, D.C., or New York City, or London, or Rome, or Berlin, or Paris. You're getting the, or Tokyo, or Beijing. You're getting the idea? Runs them in, the drones, and damages buildings badly. And people are being evacuated from buildings. They got alerts. And now, let's say that was happening, and you lived in Washington, D.C., or lived in New York, and this stuff was happening. Russian drones were flying in, they were launching them off boats or submarines or whatever, right? I'm just making this up as an analogy. They're flying into New York and hitting Empire State Building, Rockefeller Center, places like that, right? And damaging these buildings. How safe would you feel? You wouldn't feel safe at all, would you? Now compound it with the value of your ruble just plummeted in half recently. Really quick like that. It just went down in half. And a lot of the food that Russia brings in is imported. They have a lot of their own food too. They got imported food and they got to pay for it. You know, not in rubles, so they got to buy foreign currency, and now their ruble, when they go to buy a foreign currency, only goes half as far. So their food prices, when it catches up in a week or two or three, whatever, it'll catch up, are going to double. Is that a famine? Not really a famine, but you're getting there. You're getting there. So the people in Russia were suffering. But were they out in the streets protesting against Ukraine? No. Were they out in the streets protesting when Russia goes into Syria and, you know, builds them up, and Syria is a big enemy of Israel, and opens up a Navy base and an air base in the Latakia area of Syria, and helps Hezbollah and Iran get ready to kill Israel? Did they say anything? No. So this is what they get. The enemies of Israel are getting it. Their food right now is still cheaper than what we pay in Israel, which shows you what a garbage government Israel has. See, the supermarkets are run by big monopoly chains here. And they're all rotten, no good retailers that just want to hold the people's face to the grindstone and squeeze every ounce of profit they can out of it. And they all fix their prices as high as they can get away with. And the government lets them. They're hoping that BRICS is going to save them, and BRICS is not going to save them. Again, they're going to meet in September. They're meeting sometime in August, in the next few days, and they're going to begin establishing their trading currency backed by gold. That means that they use it to buy from each other, and they're going to let a certain amount of new countries into BRICS. There's about maybe 15 or 20 that are actually ready to go right in. And to get this gold-backed currency, they got to back the currency with gold. So a country, let's say Ethiopia, wants to use the BRICS gold-backed currency, they're going to be expected to put the gold someplace in the BRICS bank in either Moscow or Beijing. How many countries really have that much gold and are willing to transport it to Beijing or Moscow to be able to, use this currency? They're going to have to put a certain amount of gold somewhere. Now, you start going to places like Sri Lanka and Ethiopia and Somalia and telling them they could just, state that they have, 3 metric tons of gold, and they're putting it in a special vault on reserve to back the currency. Well, they'll all inflate what they have. And how do you know they really have it? So the whole thing will fall apart. I don't know how they're going to do this yet. They'll announce it, but it's going to be not. It's not going to be real good. Let's put it that way. There's no peace talks going on. NATO is talking about Ukraine getting wiped off the map. Russia is saying if, we get Kiev and, they want a massive piece of Ukraine, maybe 65%, they might consider peace. Ukraine's not doing it. There's no peace talk. Okay. NATO's not about to let Russia occupy all of Ukraine. So the war is imminent, I think. Putin's going to try brainwashing the people, regarding the dropping value of the ruble and the drone attacks and the losses in Ukraine. And I don't think it's going to work. I think these people, when they start realizing they can't buy food like they used to, and then they're going to be afraid it's going to get worse. Putin's going to start trying to propagandize them, and it's probably not going to work. In China, the middle class is disappearing there. They're in such bad shape. Russia, Iran, China, Turkey, Syria, all enemies of Israel. All of them have horrifically bad economies right now, every one of them. So is the Lord not having a controversy with the nations over Zion? He is. America really doesn't have much of a middle class left. The interest rate the mortgage rate is over 7% now in America. Now, the Federal Reserve does that, so apparently they wanted inflation. So they raise the interest rates, and they tell you it's to stop inflation. Well, in a way, yeah, because what happens is the housing prices drop. Because people can't qualify for as much of the house anymore, because instead of paying 3.5%, they're paying over 7%. So maybe they could qualify for a $200,000 house. Now they can buy $130,000 or something like that. I didn't work the numbers. I'm just estimating wild guesses, you could say, but it's not that wild. Guessing, not wild guessing. So that means housing prices have to drop if you want to sell your house, because people aren't going to be able to qualify like they could a year or two ago. Now, when you go to buy a house, it's not that great either. While they drop the price of the house down, the mortgage interest goes up, so you're not getting such a great deal either. So the housing market will go way down. And that means new housing starts go goodbye, and that means jobs go away, raw materials or construction materials don't get sold, and all of that. The people in Maui, there's rumors going around that the amount of the dead people is much, much, much higher than what's being told in the media. Do I know if that's true? I have no idea. I'm just saying, I have read that. It could be conspiracy theory nonsense. It could be true. I don't know. Maybe they haven't finished yet searching and finding dead bodies, and it may go up then. I don't really know. I just know I'm reading it, and So there's 1,000 wildfires in Canada. That's amazingly bad. The West African bloc is saying they're going to go into Niger to intervene. basically invade Niger to reestablish the president that's been taken out of office and locked up by the military. And the African Union, AU, abbreviated, Peace and Security Council has resolved to oppose the use of military force in Niger, but the ECOWAS is interested in military force, so they're planning a D-Day invasion into Niger. So that's going to go from a ruler fighting ruler to a war with other countries fighting other countries. Now we go to Buenos Aires, which is in Argentina, right? Yeah. Is in chaos. They have catastrophic strikes. Natural disasters. They're in trouble. They're going after their government because the government, when the people start getting hungry and they can't pay their bills, they're going to go after the government. How many of you are going to sit there and just say, well, the government's not doing a great job, I guess I'll have to go live in my car in Walmart now? People don't want to do that. Now the floods hitting China are pushing their economic collapse forward by leaps and bounds. And China too is hanging their hat on BRICS bailing them out. I wouldn't count on that working. See, other countries that don't like China and Russia and BRICS, America and whatever, UK, they can play around with the price of gold on the markets. They got enough money to buy and sell tremendous amounts of gold, and you can mess it up. So in other words, the BRICS forms, and let's say gold price is $1,950. What if they bring it down to $1,500? Well, the amount of currency that the BRICS countries have, which is gold backed, has diminished by a lot. So now, if they want to keep using the same amount of BRICS gold backed trading currency, sorry for all the words, but I'm trying to be specific, then they have to put more gold up. See, they can break it. There's been like 40,000 houses washed away from floods. There's been lots of people dead. Grain and crops are destroyed. It's bad. China is in bad. The biggest or the second biggest real estate company, I think it's called Evergreen or something like that, collapsed. 900,000 houses are vacant, and they've got acres and acres of cars, electric cars that aren't being sold. They're just sitting there rotting. So the mortgage rates in America are at a 21-year high. See, combining it with inflation, it's devastatingly bad. Now combine it with all the damage from the fires, hurricanes, it's going to take its toll. Big question now comes up, who the heck's going to want to vote for Biden? They can't blame him for the hurricanes, but they could blame him for the response he made to the hurricanes. And Trump is going to go blow his horn on national TV and on social media about what a bad job Biden does, no matter how it turns out. It's a picture of British Columbia with the fires. It's horrible up there. So much of this going on now. So the floodwaters in China are now going into other areas in China too. Here's another picture of Donggang or something like that. It goes into the billions pretty easily when this stuff starts happening, the damages. Now, Syria is so crazy right now, I don't even have words for it. Let me tell you who's fighting in Syria right now. They're not fighting each other, they're fighting, well, they are fighting each other, but the cast of characters, you need a scorecard. I need a roadmap to keep track of this. But what we know is going on is Turkey is there fighting the Kurds. The Americans are practicing military maneuvers with the Kurds. Now let's stop, take a look back. What does this mean? America and Turkey are both in NATO. Turkey's trying to kill the Kurds and America's doing military exercises with the Kurds. ISIS is there fighting against Bashar Assad, Syria, and he's fighting back against them. Russia's there fighting, I don't know who else. Hezbollah is there. American coalition forces from other countries with America have bases. America's closing the passages from Iraq into Syria because they don't want Iran getting into Syria. Why? Well, they don't want Iran helping Bashar Assad stay in power against ISIS and other forces. The Taliban in Afghanistan are not very far away from attacking Iran. Azerbaijan and Armenia are fighting with each other, and Iran backs Armenia. It's nuts, right? There's so many people fighting in Syria right now, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to figure it all out. And America's expanding, bringing more troops into Syria, and America's starting to get stretched out pretty thin, I would say. Wouldn't you? I mean, what are they doing in Syria like that, you know? I guess they don't want Israel to have its way in Syria. There's nobody in Syria that's strong enough to fight against Israel, and Israel could just go in and do a tap dance on their heads and occupy Syria. And that would be fulfilling Bible prophecy. King David used to rule from Syria. And it would turn Damascus into a ruinous heap, I'll bet, and that would fulfill the prophecy. And Israel would eventually want to go to northeast Syria, where the oil wells are, and how hard would it be for Israel to get the oil wells working again and get the refineries going again? Not that hard. This is Israel, not that hard. And now Israel has oil. Well, that's a good reason why America's trying to get in there and stop it. Syria has no military might. Syria could hold up against Israel maybe for 3 hours or something. Not even. It would be a joke. It would just be a wipeout. Hezbollah would be a wipeout. There's nothing in Syria. Russia has such minimalistic forces in Syria. Iran has got nothing. It would just wipe it out. And then we got oil, and they don't want that. Asher dip his foot in oil? No, they don't want that. Listen to this. Iraq-Syrian border. Iran has given orders to the Shiite Hezbollah affiliated al-Shabaab militias, that basically it's Hezbollah militias in Syria, to prepare for a possible military escalation with the United States led the United States led international coalition. And you could see them getting ready. But they have crap equipment. It's pickup trucks with a big gun mounted on it, and that's called a technical. You can't fight America with pickup trucks with guns on the back. Are you serious? What are you going to do to an American tank, an armored Humvee, an armored personnel carrier, to an F-22, an F-35, an F-16? What are you going to do? Nothing. It's a joke. An analogy would be like trying to rob a bank with armed guards, and they got pistols and shotguns, and you come in with a BB gun, with a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun. It's a joke. Today, well, I guess it's yesterday, NATO sent 3 Boeing E-3 Sentry aircraft. This is early warning and control aircraft to Turkey, possibly to observe Iranian movements in Iraq and Syria. Remember, Turkey is in NATO, so it's crazy. Turkey's fighting the Kurds. America's running military exercises with the Kurds in Syria. How do you put this down in reality? I mean, it's stranger than fiction. The tropical storm, which they're thinking Hillary's going to turn into after landfall, is going to move over Death Valley, dumping 12 trillion gallons. 12 trillion gallons. Let's explain. 1,000 million makes a billion. 1,000 billion makes a trillion. Times 12 gallons of water over California, Nevada, and Arizona. Do you understand what's happening? The Wall Street Journal, which is a reasonably accurate publication, reports that investors are fearing a Lehman moment in China, threatening the solvency of the country's financial system. In other words, they're going to pull out. Fires in Montana as well. What's that going to do to that Kevin Costner show where he owns like 1 million acres, a big ranch, and becomes the governor of Montana? It's a fiction TV show, but I think they film it in Montana. What are they going to do now? It could be Wyoming, but I think it's Montana. I don't remember. So the West African Bloc, ECOWAS, has decided on a D-Day for military intervention in Niger. The member states of this are... I kept losing my signal for some reason. So that's why I opened it. I don't know what's wrong. If I try to fix it, I'll cut it myself off. So the members of this ECOW, well, it's the West Africa Bloc, ECOWAS. I'll read you them. Uh, Senegal, Guyana, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Nigeria. Apparently Niger is in it too. Burkina Faso and Ghana. So what chance does Niger have of defending themselves? Oh, Togo is also in it. Benin is also in it. It's a lot. And is Cape Verde in it? I don't know. Gambia is in it also. Guyana's in it. I mean, it's a lot of countries. Looks like it's about 12 or something are going to hit Nigeria. So all these armies are probably going to put 1,000 to 3,000 people together or something like that and go into Nigeria. Crazy, huh? That's going to be another war. And now America has sold to Australia a $1 billion order of probably reasonably advanced weapons. Now, since I made this up an hour and a half ago, we got more news. Let's take a look at it. Hurricane Hillary made landfall already in Palm Springs. That's Palm Springs, California. That's sort of a desert environment. And there's a lot of lightning strikes and heavy rainfall. We don't have more details yet. It's sort of breaking news. China has started doing military exercises around Taiwan in response to the visit of Vice President of the island to the U.S. Air and sea patrols around Taiwan. In Tenerife, which I believe is Canary Islands, the wildfires are out of control, affecting 10 municipalities. That's a city in Tenerife, consuming 5,000 hectares of land already, and forced the evacuation of 4,500 people so far. Taiwan so far at 9 o'clock this morning, UTC time. No, 9 o'clock, I guess, Taiwan time. On the 19th of August today, detected 42 Chinese aircraft, 26 of which crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait. They conducted joint combat patrols with 8 Chinese naval vessels. Taiwan's saying they'll defend themselves and will not be intimidated. That's good for them. Sweden has got an incident about some guy wanting to burn the Quran and a woman starting up against it. America landed a couple of B-2 Spirit bombers in England, which is not exactly normal, but the days are not exactly normal. Nobody seems to be constructively talking peace either. None of them. So we sure got a lot of stuff going on. Now, let's take a look at the chat and we'll try to work on the Bible work. Let me start this over. What's going on? Oh, I think I got trouble with my live stream. Let me go back to this again. Oh, I think it's okay. I just had to get the new screen. Shut this off. Okay. You got to understand a couple of things about prophecy, okay? As far as I could tell, we're in the, the Lord showed me, we're in the year of recompenses now. As far as I know how to interpret Scripture, the year of recompenses is the same year as the year of redemption. Why the Lord told me just recompenses is still puzzling to me, and I'm searching Him, and please search Him too, and we get it right. But the fact that I haven't gotten a correction makes me think I probably have it right. But I need to go through this with you one more time so you understand where I'm coming from. And if anybody has better insights, let me know. Don't keep it a secret. Micah 5:3. I want to cover this, I don't want to forget. Therefore will he give them up until the time that she which travaileth hath brought forth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel, and he shall stand and feed in the strength of Jehovah, in the majesty of the name of Jehovah Elohim, and they shall abide for now. They shall abide, for now shall he be great unto the ends of the earth. Okay, so what this is saying, I'll break it down. Therefore will he give them up until the time that she with travaileth. Now that's the actual birthing process, which is described in Jeremiah 30 very well. And in Jeremiah 30, you see the birth pangs precede the travail. The travail is the water broke, the cervix is dilated, the baby's crowning, that type of thing, the actual baby being delivered. Okay? The earth bringing forth in a day. Who ever heard of a nation being brought forth in a day? This is it. It follows the birth pangs. But mixed in with Jeremiah 30 during this time, we read of Jacob's trouble, which I believe to be Zechariah 12, and we read, it says, great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved or delivered out of it. So they don't get hurt there. The great day of the Lord, which the churches call the tribulation in Ezekiel 38-39, Zechariah 14, and Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11, has the women getting raped, the people going into captivity, and the ones that are grieved over the bad things being done around the temple in Jerusalem have a mark placed on their forehead and nothing bad happens to them, and they don't leave Jerusalem. Well, that's not your great tribulation with the beast, the false prophet, the mark, and all that stuff. It's just not it. It's not in there. So, therefore will he give him up until the time that she which travaileth, which is Israel, hath brought forth, or the earth brought forth Israel, the nation being born in a day. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel. Well, when that happens, the second Exodus happens. You can't have the harvest of Matthew 13 separate from the second Exodus. Matthew 13 concerns itself with the whole world. Now, when you study the daughter of Babylon, America, in Jeremiah 50:51, it mentions there's a harvest from the daughter of Babylon. Okay, and that's gathering the wheat into his barn, which is Israel. He's the gate into the sheepfold. You have to get into Israel through Yeshua. You're not going to get in otherwise. So it's all tied together. But in Jeremiah 30:11, we also read all the nations that the Lord sent the Israelites into during captivity, which would have been from 70 AD till now. Shall be destroyed. So these nations, of which there has to be at least 100, 150 of them, are going to be destroyed. And that's what you're seeing the preliminary to. They're getting ready and gearing up for massive wars all over the place. And it also says the people in the nations are going to go into captivity. They're not going to all get killed, but they're going to have to leave their country, probably because there's nothing left. Many will get killed. You see what's going on? Now the church is running around talking about the rapture. That's what's going on. Well, that's a function of replacement theology. That all the bad stuff happens to Israel and all the good stuff happens to the church. It's rather silly. And the problem they have is they break the scriptures to get to this crazy, insane position. And I know I do this a lot, but I'm going to do it again because we're trying to help people that don't know it. John 6:39. And this is the Father's will which had sent me, that of all which he hath given me, I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. That's the rapture. It happens at the last day, which is after the millennium. And everybody goes up on the same day, the last day. There's no left behind rapture. This is a lie to get you to go to sleep and forget about everything. Oh, no worries. We're going to be yanked up to heaven. My clothes are going to be left here on earth. And Israel's going to have to take the mark and go to the lake of fire, or they're going to get their head cut off and die. So Israel's basically the worst place to be. The reality of this is Israel is the best place to be, the safest place to be. only for real believers, not the church people. The Lord is dead and all that. That's not being a real believer. That's following the other gospel. Okay? Now, Yeshua said this again in John 6:40, and this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth upon him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. Now it's the second time everybody goes up on the same day, on the second day. Now he said it a third time, John 6:44. No man could come to me except the Father which had sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. Again he says it 3 times now, John 6:54. Whoso eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood, that's communion, hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. So they teach against the teachings of Yeshua. Now, you got to deal with this harshly, because your eternity is going to depend on it, and things are about to get very real. They're already beginning to get very real. You don't live where the fires are, but if you were, you'd realize things are getting real. You know, I mean, with Ukraine and Russia, that's very real. It's going, and there's lots of other wars. 2 John verse 9, whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath both the Father and the Son. When you start teaching against the scriptures with this crackpot, Schofield, Darby, rapture bullcrap, you are absolutely not abiding in the doctrine of Christ, and you have not God. That's it. That's the reality. And you go around spreading this to your friends and your neighbors and your relatives. Oh, we're going to be going up in the rapture. We're going to wait bye. You're being made a monkey out of by Satan through his churches. Go ye forth into all the world and take money from those that want to enter the kingdom of God, and buy a big stupid building with it so you have credibility. You know, is that the great commandment? Did they not, in Acts 2, did they not sell their real estate to meet the needs of the other people? What does the church do? They take money from the people and buy a building nobody lives in, nobody benefits in but them, and they use it for credibility. Thousands of people flow in there on Sunday. Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it, and the people don't realize it, because the Bible teaches us many are called, but few are chosen. You see, the ones that are called know there's a heaven and an eternal life and all that stuff, and they don't want to behave correctly. They just want the good stuff. They don't want to operate correctly the way God told us with his law. So they fill the churches up on Sunday, and they get their ears tickled by the bad pastors, thinking that it's going to work out for them, and it's not. You're going against the teachings of Yeshua. You cannot do that. Okay? Now, I'm not going to dwell on this. I'm going to go back to other things, but Matthew 5:17. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. What do the churches tell you? Well, he destroyed the law. Well, what about the prophets? He puts the two together. No, the prophets are good, right? I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. And they say, well, he fulfilled the law. It's the same thing as destroying it. Did Yeshua finish fulfilling the law? No. Does he not come with New Jerusalem and spend 1,000 years here with us? And what happened to all that? Let's read the next verse. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass. Well, I'm looking outside. There's a heaven and an earth that hasn't passed. One jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. The law is still around. The next verse. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments of the law, that's what he means, and shall teach men so, he shall be called in the kingdom of God, of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. See, there's the kingdom of God, which would be New Jerusalem, and the kingdom of heaven is the one up on the third heaven, all the way up, right? All right, fine point. So it's very plain the law is not done away with. So the church has gotten it out from under the law. It's a joke that people believe this stuff because they're not the elect, they're not the remnant, they're just called. Everybody gets the call. And a lot of people focus the call on crazy things, Buddhism, Hinduism, Mohammedanism, atheism, and communism, and all this other stuff, right? No limit to it. Satanism, I mean, it has no limit. Baha'ism, I can keep going. There's so many religions. Shintoism, and, Buddhism, it just doesn't end, So, where are they? I mean, they're a mess, and people think this is the way to go. It's not. It says all Israel shall be saved. It doesn't say the church. There's no place in the Bible where he says he's the God of the church. It's always the God of Israel. So they're not. You hang around with their teaching, and these times are coming, and it's not the tribulation. It's Jericho. And then you have the continuing whirlwind of the Lord falling on the head of the wicked until it fulfills what Jehovah wants. And that's what you're seeing with these hurricanes and tornadoes and other type of floods which come from rain, usually, right? And you're seeing all this. That's what you're seeing. Okay? And that's because the Lord has a controversy with the nations over Zion. They don't want Israel to be serving him as the head of all the nations, following the law. They don't want that. Okay? That's what this is about. Some of you will receive it, and some of you won't. If you're going to keep going back to the church, I'm sorry for you. What can I do? You're not receiving the message. I can't do much about that. I could lead you to water, but I can't make you drink. So let's go back to the year of redemption, year of recompenses, okay? So Isaiah 34:8. Now, if you see a flaw, let me know. For it is the day of Jehovah's vengeance. Now, there's three events you'll be reading about: the day of vengeance, the year of recompenses, and the year of redemption. Now, remember, Babylon captivity was 70 years, but it didn't start on the first of Abib. Okay, it could start somewhere else. It's just a year period of time. It's not a cyclical 1 year period like Shemitah year or Jubilee year. Okay, remember that. Okay. So I estimate, give or take, some days that started around August 1st. That's when I was told. It's the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy over Zion. So recompenses means payback to the nations for what they did. Okay, so the day of vengeance, it says day up in Isaiah 34:8, and the word for day is Strong's number 3117, Yom, which means day. That's it. You know, we see people, we say Yom Tov, which means good day. Tov is good days. It means a day. It's a day. Nobody's going to dispute that. Okay. Next is Isaiah 61:2. We'll start with 1. The spirit of the spirit, which should be the word Ruach, it is the Ruach of Adonai Yehovah is upon me, because Jehovah hath anointed me to preach good tidings, which is similar to saying good news or good gospel. Unto the meek he hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of Jehovah, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. Now, the mourning is found in Zechariah 12. The acceptable year, it says several places in the Bible, when the people come to Israel, that's where he will accept you. It's not a Jubilee year. The Jubilee year is never, phrased that way. Okay? It's Ratzon, and it means, let's see what Strong's has to say about it. Acceptable, delight, favor, good favor, acceptable. Okay. Now, let's see where God says that. So I don't want you to just be taking my word for it. If I teach you like that, then you're going to take the word of the false teachers too. That's not the right way to go. Ezekiel 20, starting in verse 33, depicts the second Exodus. I'll read, starting in so Ezekiel 20, verse 33. As I live, saith Adonai Yehovah, surely with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out, will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people. And the word there is people, not Goyim people. And will gather you out of the countries wherein, the word for countries is it's lands, the lands, wherein you are scattered. That's the diaspora, the captivity. With a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. Well, it sure looks like that's going on, getting ready to really heat up. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face, as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith Adonai Yehovah. Now, God never pleaded with the fathers in the wilderness in the land of Egypt with the church, did he? Of course not. He's talking Israel. But if you're a real believer in Yeshua HaMashiach, who's the king of Israel, he's a Jew from the tribe of Judah, descended from King David, and he's the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, and he calls the believers his brethren. How could you not be an Israelite in the eyes of God if you're in Yeshua? It's impossible. Don't let the church play with you. And I will cause you to pass under the rod. Now the shepherd has the rod, and the sheep go into the sheep pen, and he looks at them going in under the rod to make sure he doesn't get a coyote or something like that, a wolf. And I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. Okay? And I will purge out from among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me. Then, what's the transgress? Well, they're preaching the pre-trib rapture, mid-trib, post-trib, left behind raptures. That's one way to do it. Saying the law is dead is another way to do it, and there's many other ways to transgress. I will bring them forth out of the country wherein they have sojourned, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. and you shall know that I am Jehovah. Now, this is not going to be a 40-year deal, maybe 40 days or something like that. It's not going to be 40 years. As for you, O house of Israel, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, go you, serve you every one his idols, and hereafter, if you will not hearken unto me, but pollute you my holy name, no more with your gifts and with your idols. For in my holy mountain, in the mountain of the height of Israel, that's Mount Zion, saith Adonai Jehovah, there shall all the house of Israel, all of them in the land, only the ones that make it into the land, serve me. There will I accept them. Where? In Israel. And the word for accept is be pleased with, favorable, accept. Okay. There will I accept them. And there will I require your offerings and the first fruits of your oblations with all your holy things. Now this completely takes the church teachings that the Lord is dead and throws it out the window. What do you think an oblation with all the holy things and the first fruits is? This is the law, Moses' law. I will accept you, there it is again, with sweet Savior. That's a good thing when I bring you out from the people and gather you out of the countries wherein you have been scattered, and I will be sanctified in you before the heathen. And you shall know that I am Jehovah when I shall bring you into the land of Israel, into the country for the which I lifted up my hand to give it to your fathers. And there shall you remember your ways and all your doings wherein ye have been defiled. And you shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for all your evils that ye have committed. And you shall know that I am Jehovah when I have wrought with you for my name's sake, not according to your wicked ways, nor according to your corrupt doings, O you house of Israel, saith Adonai Jehovah. There he accepts you in Israel. So now stop. Ask yourself, why are you listening to preachers that aren't in Israel? What are you doing? Is that the way it works? That the gospel goes from the Gentile nations into Israel? Do you ever read a scripture like that? The heathen nations shall spread the gospel to Israel. Come on, wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Please wake up. Please. Pretty please. Pretty please with cherries and sugar and raspberries and strawberries on it. Please. Please. Okay. Now we'll go to Isaiah 63:4. Some of you may not be enjoying this, but it's coming right out of your Bible. As somebody said, scriptures cannot be broken, and that is in the chat. Somebody put that up, and I totally agree. Okay, Isaiah, what did I say, 63:4? I think that's what I said. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. Does that mean that the day of vengeance is in the year of recompenses that precedes the year of redemption? It might be. See, there's a chance that there's a year of recompenses, and then there's the year of redemption following it, which I want you to know is still fantastic news, which I'll elaborate for you in a moment. So this says, the day of vengeance is in my heart, which makes me think, I don't know, see, it's vague, I can't make a doctrine on this, and the year of my redeemed is come. All right. It also seems to be associating the day of vengeance with the year of the redeemed. I have in my notes Luke 21:12. I don't know why. Let me look. Maybe I was going after some other concept when I wrote that note. No, that's not. I'm not going to go through that. Okay. Isaiah 66, 6 to 8. Oops. 66. A voice of noise from the city, a voice from the temple, a voice of Jehovah rendereth recompense to his enemies. Before she travailed, that's before she actually got into the birthing and the delivering, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Now that would be the birth of Yeshua. Israel is not the man-child. Who hath heard such a thing? Who hath seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day? Shall the nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travailed, actually went into the birthing process, she brought forth her children. So apparently she's not going to stay in the labor for very long. When she goes into travail, let's call it labor, it's going to be very fast. As soon as Zion, which is Israel, travailed, she brought forth her children. That's Zechariah 12, Jacob's trouble, because they look upon the Lord and they changed. His spirit is poured out on them. Shall I bring to the birth and not cause to bring forth, saith Jehovah? Shall I cause to bring forth and shut the womb, saith thy God? Rejoice you with Jerusalem, be glad with her, all you that love her. Rejoice for joy with her, all you that mourn for her, that you may suck and be satisfied with the breasts of her consolations, that ye may milk out and be delighted with the abundance of her glory. Okay, so I think the Lord gave me the answer to solve this, and I'll show you the solving of the dilemma. It's in Jeremiah 30, and I'm going to take a quick break for a minute, and I'll be back, and we'll do it, okay? He gave me the answer, and I was right, but I'll go through it. All right, I'm going to go back and make sure. Alright guys, I shut the door because my wife has to do some of her work. And if we lose the network, don't go away. I'll fix it in a few seconds with another network, but I think we'll probably hold up. I don't know what happened before. I don't know, but it's very unusual for that. Okay, so the answer is in Jeremiah 30:11, and I'll show you what the Lord showed me. Starting in verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah from Jehovah, saying, so it's the word of the Lord, it's without error, of course. Thus speaketh Jehovah Elohim, Israel. Now, when it's a dream or a vision, it's without error too, because they're prophets. So it's always without error. Okay. Thus, then the translations into English, they screw it up on purpose, which I illuminate you to frequently. Thus speaketh Jehovah Elohim Israel. Never says Jehovah of the church, okay? The church started 350 years after Yeshua's ministry on earth, something like that. And it evolved into, Constantine did it, and it turned into a Catholic church. Why do you think that's the church? What about that 350 years when there was no church after Yeshua did his work on earth and rose from the dead and is seated at the right hand of God up in heaven? What do you think about that? You know, it says in the scripture, whom the heaven must receive until the restitution of all things. The pre-trib raptures are all screwed up. Whom the heaven must receive. He has to stay in heaven at the right hand of God the Father until all things are restored, the restitution, the restoration of all things. And then he comes down to New Jerusalem. And the two witnesses pave the way for that. They're the ones doing the work. It's easy. Just stop listening to the church. They're unbiblical, extremely. They have another gospel, 2 Corinthians 11:4. They have another gospel, they have another Jesus, and they have another spirit in there. And they're never going to receive the right gospel. They're the called, not the chosen. The church thinks they're deceiving all the elect and the chosen one. They're crazy. They're only working with, they're not working with the elect. Okay. Thus speaketh Jehovah Elohim Israel. Now there might be a few left of the elect in the church. We were all at one time in the church, but we came out. And I have a feeling many are going to be coming out in the future. I mean, let's say the ones living in San Diego or these places where all the trouble is starting, like with the fires or the floods or the hurricanes or, all this stuff. What do you think, David? Don't you think they're starting to say, where's the rapture? What kind of crap has the church been feeding me? Don't you think it started already? It did. They're doubting. You have the answers if you have the true gospel. Try to help them. Thus speaketh Jehovah Elohim Israel, saying, write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book, in a safer. It could be a scroll, I suppose. For lo, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah. So now he's talking about the 10 tribes Israel, which is also referred to as Ephraim, and Judah, the 2 tribes, Judah and Levi. So that's your second Exodus. That's the harvest of Matthew 13. Saith Jehovah, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. Causes them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. Okay, we know what that is. It's not Salt Lake City. And it's Israel. And these are the words that Jehovah spake concerning Israel. That's Israel. And concerning Judah. That's the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes. He's not referencing the piece of land here. He's referencing the 12 tribes, 10 plus 2. For thus saith Jehovah, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask you now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands upon his loins, clutching their guts? As a woman in travail, as a woman in labor. You see what he's doing? It's sort of kind of playing on words, kind of funny in a way. They're so scared. Because in Zechariah 12, they surround Judah and Jerusalem. They lay siege, which means they wrap themselves around the country. They don't actually invade. They could be fighting while they're doing this, attacking, but they don't go in. Okay? And there's millions of them, apparently, and the people get scared. Okay? Every man has his hands on his loins, like a woman in travail, and all the faces are turned into paleness. They're like getting a chalky face. Chalk because the blood's rushing to their stomach and their guts are so scared. Maybe they're getting that flee and flight reaction, if you know what I mean. Now, this is not the man of peace who shall bring peace, and in the middle of his 7-year thing with Israel, he will break the covenant and end the offerings and all that. That's not it. That's not for this time. They're teaching you garbage. Okay, and this is not 1948 with a clutch in their guts. You can find pictures in 1948, the Israelis sitting in the coffee shops, listening to the radio. They had no TVs, drinking espressos and Turkish mud coffee and everything else, while the UN was voting on Israel. They were very peaceful. Cigarettes, coffee, some probably had beer and wine. And then they were cheering, "Yay, we got into the UN, we're a nation, blah, blah, blah." That's not this. Don't be deceived. The satanic UN made the nation in a day. Said the earth shall bring forth in a day, not the United Nations. Come on. Wake up. So that, okay, alas, that day is great, so that none is like it. That was May 15th, 1948, when the UN was meeting to bring them into the UN as an independent nation. That was a day that no day is like it. Why are you deceived like this? Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Yaakov's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. What is saved? The word for saved, it's Yaakov, which comes from the word Yeshua. Yeshua comes from that. It's a base in there, like a root in there. And it means to be saved, to be delivered. When you read Zechariah 12, not one Israelite has a sprained ankle from this battle. Okay, there's no dead and wounded, none. He shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, that's the Zechariah terminology, that day and that day and that day. It says it over and over and over again. Saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and he will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. It's referencing the strangers, the nations. This is the breaking of the yoke of the nations often. Previously, the breaking of the yoke of the leaders of Israel, this democracy and the rabbis and all that, is taken care of in Ezekiel 34. They're cut off. Chief, calm down, okay? I'm not ordering Chinese food for you or anything this morning. Calm down. But they shall serve Jehovah Elohim and David, their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Yaakov, that's Israel, saith Jehovah, neither dismay, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar. That's the second Exodus. And thy seed from the land of their captivity, and Yaakov shall return, second Exodus, and shall be in rest. What's the word for rest? 8252 Strong's number. Tranquility. Cut it out down there. Be in rest, okay? That's a good question. Why? Read Zechariah 12. And be quiet. And the word for quiet is not really quiet. It's be at ease or peace. Be at peace. And none, word for none is ayin, which is ain rather. Sorry, it's ain. It means nothing really, not none. It's more like saying nothing. But I guess in English, you know, you wouldn't say nothing shall make them afraid. I suppose you could, or you could say none, I guess. Shall make them afraid. For the word for afraid is karad, tremble, quake, afraid. Yeah, it's pretty close to say afraid. Now pay close attention. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. Not to put him through a tribulation with the mark of the beast and all that crap, okay? Forget that nonsense. With left behind raptures and all this fairy tales. For I am, it never says that the ones that are, not Israel that are saved are going to reign over the Jews with a rod of iron. It says Yeshua is going to reign over the nations with a rod of iron. Never says what they teach. For I am with thee, in that area, in that particular one. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. Now pay close attention. Though I make a full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee. Now, the word for full end is 3617 Strong's number, kalal. It means a complete termination, a complete destruction, a consumption, and annihilation. This is in your Bible. I give you my word that I did not sneak in your house last night like Santa Claus with my flying reindeer and go down the chimney and write this in your Bible. It's been there all these centuries. Your teachers never teach you this. Though I make a full annihilation or destruction of all the nations, whither I have scattered thee. That's 100 or 150 nations. The Jews have been scattered all over the place. Middle East, Europe, North America, South America, Caribbean, parts of Asia. There's not many places they were not scattered into. Whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. For thus saith Jehovah, thy bruise is incurable, and thy wound is grievous. No man is going to be able to cure it. They're not going to be able to cure it themselves. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicine. Nobody's pleading the cause. The church doesn't care about Israel. They punish it. They remove investments from Israel. Come on. They don't care about Israel. All thy lovers have forgotten thee. Now, America's not really a friend of Israel right now. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thy iniquity, because thy sins were increased. Why criest thou for mine affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. I have done these things unto thee. Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil. The wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous, and Israel will soon be the righteous, and all that prevail upon thee will I give for a prey. For I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee of thy wounds, saith Jehovah, because they call thee an outcast, saying, This is Zion, whom no man seeketh after. Thus saith Jehovah, Behold, I will bring again the captivity of Yaakov's tents. Second Exodus is what that is. And have mercy on his dwelling places, and the city shall be builded upon her own heap, and the palace, that's the temple, shall remain after her manner thereof, and out of them shall proceed thanksgiving, and the voice of them that make merry, and I will multiply them, and they shall not be few, and I will also glorify them as they shall not be small. Now, the be small does not mean the villain. The people say that phrase in Israel, he's small. It means insignificant. They shall not be insignificant. Their children also shall be as aforetime, and their congregations shall be established before me, and I will punish all that oppress them. And their nobles shall be of themselves, and their governors shall proceed from the midst of them, and I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach unto me. For who is this that engaged his heart to approach unto me, saith Jehovah? The governor word would mean judge, and we're going to be run by the judges, which are prophets, which means they're the two witnesses, the only prophets that come. People can prophesy as a gift of the Spirit, but to hold the office of a prophet. The last two are John the Baptist and Yeshua. The next two are the two witnesses. It's not a common office these days. And you shall be my people, and I will be your God. Behold, the whirlwind of the Lord goeth forth with fury, a continuing whirlwind. It shall fall with pain upon the head of the wicked. The word for wicked is Rasha. A bad person. I'll go with wicked. The fierce anger of Jehovah shall not return until he have done it, and until he have performed the intents of his heart. In the latter days you shall consider it. The word for consider, whoops, where did it go? I gotta go back and check. I hit the wrong button. You shall consider it. The word for consider is 995. Understand. Now you understand it. The destruction of the nations is associated with the second Exodus. I'm thinking. Second Exodus has to be the year of redemption. I can't imagine it not being that. So yeah, it's the same year, I would think. Because you're not going to have the second Exodus in the year of recompenses. So this is talking about the travail, the birth, and it's also saying the nations are going to be annihilated, which is the wars that you're seeing brew up right now. See, in simplex baby kind of talk, what's going on is God is weakening the nations very soon, which could be days or weeks or a few months. He's going to give the green light to the two witnesses and send them out with what he has to give them. And they're going to get rid of this rotten government in Israel and go to the judges, and the bad ones will be cut off in Israel. 2/3 die in Zechariah 13 verses 8 and 9. You read that, and well, the reason that's never happened before, because some church jackass will teach you it did in 70 AD, but Zechariah 13 reads like this: And it shall come to pass that in all Haaretz, the land of Israel, saith Jehovah, 2 parts therein shall be cut off. That means dead and die. It says cut off and die. It means dead. But the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim, Jehovah's my God. That never happened yet. Now, we get an inkling of where and when and how this goes by going to Malachi 3. Behold, I will send my Malach, my messenger. There's a play of word, going on here. I think they have a name in Hebrew. They do call Malachi, and I think it's Malachi, pronounced Malachi, in Hebrew. But I got bad accent in Hebrew. Okay. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me, and Jehovah. Well, it doesn't say Jehovah. It says Adon, which means the Lord. Adon, whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple. So there's going to be another temple, and the Lord, of course, is the glory God of Israel that's going to reside in this next temple, which is the house built without hands. He went into Solomon's temple briefly to anoint it with the glory cloud only. He left. He never went into Zerubbabel, Herod's temple again. So there's already been 3 temples: Solomon's, Zerubbabel's, and Herod's. The next we call Ezekiel's temple would be number 4, not number 3, number 4. The church world and the rabbis teach number 3. I don't know why they do that. It's wrong. And he shall prepare the way before me, and Jehovah whom you seek shall suddenly come. Adon, the Lord, rather, not Jehovah, the Lord, whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. Even the Malach of the covenant, whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now this is one of the 2 witnesses they refer to as Elijah. He's not literally Elijah. Selected unto man to die only once, Elijah died. The other witness they refer to as David is the anointed prince who will be working in the temple. Read Ezekiel 45 if you don't believe me about this. And he's the one they call David, but he's not literally David. He'll be from the line of Judah, from the line of Jesse, from David's lineage, because David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne. The glory of God of Israel is not a man, he's an angel, Michael. He's the glory of God of Israel. And Jehovah put his name in Michael, that's in his Exodus 23, so he could receive offerings for Jehovah. Okay, and when it says, behold, he shall come, he's talking about the witness called Elijah. But who may abide the day of his coming? Well, that gives you a clue. A lot may be getting cut off. And who shall stand when he appeareth? The word appeareth is ra'ah. When they see him, they look at him, or appear, when you get a better idea of this word. You could say appear when they see him. It's a pretty okay translation. For he is like a refiner's fire and like fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years. And I will come near to you to judgment. This is Jehovah talking. And I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, against the adulterers, against the false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow and the fatherless, that's the orphans, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of armies, for I am Jehovah, I change not. Therefore you sons of Yaakov are not consumed. Okay, so now we go back and read Malachi 3 again briefly. And let's get to that point. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord and offering in righteousness. It sounds, we just read that, right? Okay, now we go to, I got myself lost here for a second. Give me a second. So now we go to Zechariah 13, 8 and 9. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith Jehovah, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the 3rd part shall be left therein, and I will bring the 3rd part through the fire, and refine them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried, and they shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. Well, this is very similar to Malachi 3, to the point where I'd say that the 2 prophets were seeing the same thing, but each from a different angle or a different perspective. But it's the same events. And obviously there is going to be a temple. And this is what you're seeing developing right now. The Jeremiah 30:11. These nations are getting ready to be annihilated. They're going to kill each other. Have you seen a victor in Ukraine and Russia? No, they just keep killing each other. It's the beginning. Sooner or later, Putin's going to attack NATO, and NATO will attack Putin. They just keep taking advantage of each other. Something's going to happen, and with China, Taiwan, and China, Russia and China with Taiwan, Russia and China with Japan, and North and South Korea. It's going to go. I mean, it's going to go. Again, how long is it going to hold like this? You know, nobody's sitting there talking peace, ending the disputes, working settlements, nothing. Nothing's going on there. Nothing good. It's all bad. Let me look at the chat and see if I'm getting questions or anything I gotta do. Somebody asked me, what is churchianity? Okay. Good question. Churchianity is the gospel that the churches preach, which is not what the Bible preaches. That's what is meant. And if you go back to the beginning, this live stream will revert to a video and be loaded up on my channel. And if you go back, it'll be on the live stream, not videos. There's no videos there, just live streams, and it'll be listed there. So if you go back when it's over and look at it, I built a very strong foundation why the churches don't follow the gospel. It wouldn't be good taste to get everybody to have to listen to it again. Okay. Now I want to talk about what you all, as true believers, should do and not do regarding the coming wars, and it includes the destruction of Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, which is USA, and that has to happen in the same time. It's not going to happen, in another time. It's going to happen at the same time as Jeremiah 30:11. And why? Because there's so many Jews scattered into America that it has to be included in Jeremiah 30:11. It gets a special treatise, but it has to be included in. What did I get here? Warning. Oh, I got a low battery, and that's easily dealt with. We just plug the charger in real quick, and that takes care of that. And I'm going to take a break for a minute, and we're going to go through what to do. when it comes to what to do, more than half my people come from the United States and Canada. Okay? So I got to pay attention to that. And I also have people that are in Australia, the UK, which includes Ireland and Scotland, and then the rest are scattered from all over the world. They're all over the place. The United States is probably the DOB, the destruction of daughter of Babylon, which is Isaiah 47, Jeremiah 50:51, is going to precede the nations in general getting destroyed, because you need nations to destroy the United States. And it's going to have a lot of fires burning it up. That's in Jeremiah 50:51. Now, I need to do, I believe, Isaiah 47 with you quickly, which is the destruction of the daughter of Babylon. I've already done this, though, but I don't need to do it again. I did it the other day. The thing is, it happens suddenly. Well, I'll go through it. It's not that hard. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babel. Sit, nowhere is it there of Babylon. It always says Babel, which the word means confusion. And that references the old Babel too, which is now Iraq. O virgin daughter of Babel, sit in the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. It's not what it used to be. Take the millstones and grind meal, uncover thy locks, make bare the leg. Uncover the thigh, pass through the rivers, thy nakedness shall be uncovered. So it's going to be shame. Yea, thy shame shall be seen, I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. It's not called the day of vengeance, though. It's taking vengeance. As for our redeemed, Jehovah of hosts is his name, the Holy One, Kadosh, Yisrael, Holy One of Israel. Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. I was wroth with my people, and I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. There's 6.5 million known Judah there. The lost tribes probably include the North American Indians. I'm quite sure they are part of it. And they had a lot of problems with the Indian wars, where they were getting annihilated there. And given them into thy hand, thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. And thou saidst, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that saith in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. It doesn't say I am, it just says I, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. Loss of children of the Espots get killed, and a widow is referencing married to the land. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day. The loss of children and widowhood. It happens in a day. In a day. A lot of it is fires. It happens in a day. They shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thy enchantments. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Everything with them is witchcraft. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee, and thou hast said in thy heart, I, and none else beside me. America thinks they're the greatest. Therefore shall evil come upon thee. Thou shalt not know from whence it riseth. See, they're not going to know where it's coming from. Look at these hurricanes and floods and fires. And mischief, bad stuff, shall fall upon thee. Thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries. Whereas thou hast labored from thy youth. George Washington was a mason. If so be thou shalt be able, so was Benjamin Franklin and a bunch of the others. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayst prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly procrastinators, stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. He's making mockery of them, because these are the things they consider important. Behold, they shall be as stubble. The fires again. The fire shall burn them. You see? They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at of fire, nor fire to sit before. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. See, it says that the ones that are not really American, that are there working the land as sowers and harvesters and stuff, will go back to the countries they came from. It also says before the end there'll be ruler fighting ruler, like civil war. One authority will fight another. Okay? But it happens suddenly in a day. It's not, and a lot of it is fire. Now the countries, various countries will invade the daughter of Babylon. I'm not going to go through Jeremiah 15:51 because that's a big, long Bible study by itself. But I have done it in the past, and if you go through my files and the channel homepage, the videos are in the live section. I deleted many of my old videos and just have more recent ones, but plenty of good Bible studies. I also have a website which is nothing but Bible studies. And let me see if I could pop that up on the screen for you, and you could get the URL. It seems to be loading, but slowly. I don't know why. It's probably the internet. Why is, oh, I know why it's loading slow. All these other pages are trying to refresh themselves. These news pages. Let's see if we got it yet. Yeah, it just came up now. I had to shut the other pages. You go to the very top line, and you see it says Moshe HaKon, all the way up at the top. MosheHaKon.com. MosheHaKon.com. It's got about 400 pages of Bible study, and you can see the different topics in there. And that'll help you. And it has the Bible verses laid out in the Bible right there. It's in King James, so you got the verses right there. You don't have to open the Bible. It's right there. Although you certainly can open the Bible. I mean, you'll find out I didn't change the verses or anything. Okay, so what do you do if you're in the daughter of Babylon? You're going to get destroyed before the other nations, because there needs to be nations to destroy you. So you can wait and look for the ruler fighting ruler, and then it says, those of you that survive the sword, but Zion come to mind, and that's leaving. If you're there till the battle begins, you're going to die, because nobody gets out. That's what it says. Jeremiah 50:51, and the Lord warns you not to fool around with this because you're going to get destroyed if you do. So the idea is to get out of there. Now, some of you approach me about coming to Israel now. Well, I need to talk about it now. Okay? The government of Israel that we have now is going to be gone. There's, enemies within and without. This is a within. The country's ready to go to civil war and it'll fall apart. And two witnesses are probably going to take care of Ezekiel 34 and get rid of the bad shepherds, which is the government which plays shepherd, and the rabbis are even in the government here too. So they'll go. Cut off. And then when we see the battle in Zechariah 12, the two witnesses are already acting as the governors, which means judges of Israel. And Isaiah 1 says God's going to run Israel with the judges and the council. It's like at the first. Judges or prophets. At the first, Moses and Aaron were running the place. Okay? And then they had the 70 counselors. So there'll be 70 counselors coming. They're going to have to be believers in the new gospel, the true gospel. They can't be rabbis with the Talmud and the Kabbalah, Okay, so some of you might be able to come. At this point, the safest place to be in the world during these events is Israel. But if you're a false believer or an evil one or not a true believer, you just get cut off here, that's all. Either you're for him or against him, and if you're not for him, you're against him. And if you're following the doctrines of the church, you're not for him. Because you're transgressing against the teachings of Yeshua. You're not for Yeshua, you're against him. You're for the church. Well, you can do the backstroke in the lake of fire with the church, That's where it's going to head. That's where it's going to finish, So, it's complicated coming here now. What happens is if you're American or Canadian or EU, Israel will give you 90-day visa at the airport immediately. Probably again, it takes a few seconds. You show them your passport at destination. Israel will process it while you're in the air, and then you show up and you just scan your passport in a machine. It spits out a little coded card. It's a soft card about the size of a Visa card or the size of a driver's license. It has your picture on it, that's your visa, and it'll give you 90 days. So that just takes a few seconds. They're not going to bother you, okay? They're probably not going to search your baggage. If you are coming, you might want to ask me if there's a few things I need. Maybe I get you to help me, possible, I'm not going to ask you to bring a refrigerator or anything, little things. Like, we like beef jerky, which you can't find in Israel. You got to make it yourself, which is a big job. But you don't want to make it in the summer because you got to run this dehydrator, which makes heat for days usually, and you don't want to heat the house up with an appliance like that in the hot summer. So other things, if you want to ask us, you can ask us. Okay, moving along. Oh, by the way, if any of you are having difficulties with offerings, what's working out is my wife and I buy things from Amazon on a fairly regular basis. And it's fairly easy to buy an Amazon gift card. And you just mail it to my email address, which is in the description box of the video. And it's in the chat, pinned up at the top and highlighted in yellow. It's Israel Giving, one word, with the number 7 at Gmail. Israel Giving with the number 7 at gmail.com. So if you feel more comfortable, you could just send me a gift card. And that constitutes a real offering, of course. And then we can use it because we're always buying something from Amazon, so it'd be perfectly acceptable to do that. Okay. Now, back where I was. should you come? Well, that's a question the Lord has to answer. If you are here in Israel, will you have to go into the wilderness and come back to Israel? No. There's no place in the scripture where the Israelis leave and go to the wilderness and come back. It's not there. Okay? After the 3 months, if things haven't changed, could you renew the visa for more period of time? Chances are pretty high that if you're from Canada or America or the EU, well, not the EU so much, but Canada or America, yeah, you would probably have not a lot of trouble getting more time out of them. They might give you a month, they might give you another 3 months, probably another 3 months. The EU, no, because the EU's tight with us, and they only give us 3 months, and then they make us leave for 3 months, and then come back to the EU for 3 months, and then leave for 3 months. So Israel does the same to the EU people. So an EU passport, you probably went and asked them for a month or something. I guess they give it to you, especially since tourism is low. They probably would. Would they give you another 3 months? Maybe. I don't know. You know, this thing changes all the time with the politicians in charge of the visas and how many tourists are here in the economy and all that. So I don't have a clear answer on that. The worst thing, well, you know, you may have to leave after 3 months if you're from the EU. I got to tell you that. Now, if you're from Great Britain, you're no longer in the EU, so you may also be able to go down and ask them for another 3 months and get it, okay? Good chance. The Israeli Ministry of Immigration that controls these things is a black box. You don't really know what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, and it changes constantly somehow. You know, typically, if you're not in the EU, they're typically going to give you another 3 months. After that, you probably have to leave. Could you just take a bus to the border crossing, cross into Jordan, and then take a bus into Jordan and get a hotel and something like that? Yeah, that's the cheapest way to do it. Yeah. Among Jordan, the capital, and people, there's lots of believers there that are waiting for Israel to, be redeemed, and then they're basically in Israel, because Jordan is in Israel. And Ammon doesn't get destroyed. Edom and Moab does, which is central and southern Jordan. So they're hanging out in Ammon. Still a Muslim majority country that's going to turn on Israel, so it's a very risky thing you're doing. But that's the cheapest thing you could do. The other things you could do would be go to Turkey. Again, it's cheap, but it's a Muslim country. Or fly to some place in Europe, but Europe's going to be destroyed. Turkey's going to get hit too. And so Ammon, Jordan has some merit, because we know in the scriptures they don't get destroyed, they submit to Israel. And you could go there by bus and stuff. Cheap, and it's cheap to live there. Food's cheap, housing's cheap, and then start in a hotel and then try to get yourself a rental and talk to realtors, and that's it. They seem to let you stay there year after year after year. They don't try to give you 30 or 90 days. They're just happy you're there. Give them some money to get the visas renewed, and they're happy. I'm not telling you to go to Jordan. I'm just saying it's a possibility. You got to always ask the Lord. Okay. So it's a funny thing, because those that come here that aren't going to be going into the wilderness, and you may not. I mean, those of us that live here have been beaten down badly. Believe me. And most of the believers that are here believe that next is coming a tribulation, and they're going to have their heads cut off, or take the mark, or hide in the wilderness or something. It's so sad what the church does to them. And that's what they believe. So they walk around, they're mad, but they're not mad. They're all bummed out all the time. They don't understand. Try teaching it to them. Hard. Very, very hard. lot of them go to congregations and they get fed garbage at the congregations. Congregations, Messianic congregations, are divisions. They abide with they have what's called umbrella organizations like Union of Messianic Congregations, which is nothing but a denomination with differing doctrinal statements, the same garbage. Galatians 5:19 to 21 forbids that they follow. It's horrible. So they'll come out of it though. And those that are here when Zechariah 12 happens are going to see the sign of the Son of Man. If they're believers and they fear God and they believe, they're going to have eternal life right then and there. So it's a funny thing as to who he's going to let come in here. So it's not that you need my permission, you need to get him to work with you to do this. Rents are high here, okay? You're hardly ever going to get anything less than 5,000 shekels, and that's going to be like a 2-bedroom apartment maybe or something like that. And that's going to equate to something like roughly $1,500 a month, plus you have to pay the landlord's taxes, plus utilities, which could easily pop you to about $2,000 a month. So it's not cheap. Food's going to cost you about, for 2 people, 1,000 shekels a week, which is about $300 and something, $330 or something. We figure a good $300 a week for food. Yeah, very expensive here. It's double what the Russians are paying. It's very expensive. Eating out, you're probably just going to be able to eat out falafel or pizza. The other stuff gets up there. But why eat out, you know? They got great internet, cheap, very high-speed internet for about $30 a month. But you might have to pay some installation as well. The house may have it. Getting a house is going to run you at least, I would say, 7,500 shekels a month, which is, I'll give you a number. You might get something for 7,000, but probably 7,500. And I'm not talking a nice house at all. Not a nice house. That's about $2,000 a month, and that's not a nice house. A nice house would be 8,000 to 10,000 shekels. That's it, kids. Plus the Arnona, which is the taxes on the property, plus your electric, plus your water, and if you're using propane, plus your gas. If you're using an electric stove, well, it's electricity. That's going to be a few $100 a month. You could buy a bus pass and use the buses. You could use taxis, which are reasonably costly, but not crazy. You can rent a car, which is going to cost you some money, probably $800, $900 a month for a tiny little car. That's it. Somebody's always going to say, oh, I could get a place for $3,000. Yeah, somebody might rent you a room in their house for 3,000 shekels a month or something like that. My guest house, which is furnished, which you're going to need, which is going to cost even more. I'm just giving you prices without the furniture. You're going to have to buy furniture. If you're going to rent furniture more, I could easily get $2,000 a month for the guest house with all the furniture and stuff like that. But we can't, we're old, and it's too much for us to have somebody living there full time. We can't take care of the birds, so you got to walk all around the property to get there. It messes us up with the dogs. Bringing packages in the house becomes problematic. We got to park out in the street, bring them in the front, and we're old. It doesn't. It's hard on us to do that. And if we can rent, and you can't rent stuff right now either because real. There's not a lot of tourists coming, so we're not getting. We ran an ad for 3 weeks. It was free for a publication that used to produce guests, and it didn't produce anything. You know, I could try to put a tenant in there, but it's desperation. If we do that, it's desperation. We just can't do it because to get to the back of the house where the garden is, the back patio, where the birds are, and to get out to the car, we normally walk through the guest house. So if somebody's there for 2, 3, 4 days, which is usually 90% of your guests are there for 2 to 4 days, so for those days we suffer and walk around. We get the groceries delivered before they come, and it helps a lot. But if someone's staying there for a month or 2 months, it's really difficult. It really is. And then you don't know what kind of noise level they're going to make, and we can't use the barbecue grill, and it's very difficult, very difficult. So we don't do it, and I don't know if I could find anybody, but that would be a fair value, easily $2,000 a month, because it's a 2-bedroom place. Nicely furnished, big screen TV, 2 queen-size beds. One has an orthopedic mattress that costs about $1,500, and the other has a really nice orthopedic mattress, not that expensive. And we have a solid wood breakfast bar in its own little room. We got a kitchen with a full refrigerator, a microwave, a very, very nice, expensive convection oven, and a 2-burner hot plate, and all the pots and pans and silverware and placemats. And we got nice solid wood furniture through the whole place, dressers in the bedrooms, and the living room has a very nice sofa that we bought when we were in the world. My wife picked an Italian fabric out of a book, and a very expensive chair from when we were in the world, and solid wood furniture. And then there's a big patio that's covered where the birds have a huge aviary, and it could seat 20 people, so you could hold 25 people. You could hold meetings there. And we got a smoker and a barbecue out there, and an organic garden you could pick fruit from, and things like this. So we got all of this stuff, which normally rents for, if the tourism was high, it would rent for $300 a day, but because tourism is bad, it should go for $200 a day. But when we run the ads, we didn't put any prices in, which is typical, and we got one call from some nice people that wanted to come for the months, and they wanted to bring 3 children and 2 dogs with them. Well, I can't have dogs there with our dogs. Can't do that. And 3 children, and it's a bit much, I think. We didn't want that. We don't want the noise. We're old, So I don't get out of the house much anymore and stuff like that. So, so you need to understand that it's expensive to live here now. Ultimately, you'll get the houses for free because there's going to be a lot of people that are no longer living in those houses, and you're not going to, you just, okay, this is my house now, 2/3 will be gone. You got to understand that the government will be gone, and that happens before Zechariah 12, because you've seen those signs, really, of the evil ones or the democracy government in Zechariah 12. They're already gone. So the things are going to happen before the big wars and stuff. Things in Israel are going to happen. There's apostles here. I've covered that. There'll be some standing here today that shall not taste of death till they see the kingdom of God. And of course, seeing the kingdom of God is not the power of God. They saw the power of God. They saw Yeshua raise the dead, heal the sick. It means New Jerusalem, and what it means. Kingdom of heaven is heaven. So there, you know, it's quite a big event to be living here, you know. So you have to talk to the Lord about that, because sadly most of you don't have the money to do it. It's costly, you know, that's all I can tell you. And some of you might want to sell your homes. If you own homes and sell your cars, well, you could still get something out of it, and then come here. That's, of course, a consideration. Some of you might have savings and stuff like that. Buying a house is going to go like this. For a private house, you're going to be looking at a good $250,000, and faster. For an apartment, you'll be looking at about $500,000 for a nice, livable apartment. So that's the reality of it. It's just awfully hard living here, which reminds me, offering information's in the description box. We take GoFundMe and Patreon, and we also take Amazon gift cards. And, you know, you could try sending a Visa gift card if it's good around the world. Most of them are not. So you could try that. Most of them are going to say they're only good in the country you got it from. You don't have to send a physical Amazon gift card, you just send a number. The same with the Visa cards, but most of them are not going to be good in Israel, so it's going to be very hard for you to find one, if even possible. Money orders are impossible to cash in Israel, and Western Union and MoneyGram are so scared of money laundering fines. They just want to take money out of Israel. They don't want to send money into Israel. We had somebody try it, and with MoneyGram, and they wouldn't send the money to me. It just got returned back to them. They wouldn't do it. They're so afraid of money laundering. There's not much. You know, this is Netanyahu, the jackass, punishing the Israelis. You know. He's reaping what he sowed now. So I don't know what else I could tell you about that. If you tried doing a hotel, you would, for anything resembling decent, you'd probably be at 150 a day. And that's not a nice, luxurious hotel that's decent, that's acceptable. Relatively clean and comfortable, but old and run down. That's about what that's going to bring in. And then the problem there is then you got to eat out. And that's going to cost you money, because you can't eat pizza 3 times a day. You can buy monthly bus passes, and they have an app now that will work in English, and you can get directions to get to the bus stop on foot, and how to travel by bus, and it tells you when to get off and all that. It works great, according to my wife, and that's free, so you can travel around by the buses. I don't know what it costs for the month. Probably about $100 a month or something like that. I don't know. I could rent people the guest house, but you know, I'd have to know who you are. I'm not gonna, you know, I've had a lot of false believers try to move into the guest house on me, and that we don't want to have, you know. So if I know who you are, you know, then I could do it. But if you write me and say, oh, I've listened to you for 3 years. I don't know who you are. You know, I mean, that doesn't mean I know who you are. Any false believer could lie about that. I have to know who you are. If I know who you are, yeah, I can deal with it, you know. But I got to know who you are, or I won't do it. There's no real place to go camping here and try living in a tent. That's not going to work. The police will get on you. When they find out you're a tourist, they're going to be pretty seriously thinking about warning you and then throwing you out of Israel. Like, come with me now, and they take you to immigration, who takes you to the airport, and you're out of here, you know, something like that. They don't want people running around playing the homeless game here that are tourists. They won't put up with it, I don't think. I don't think they'll do it. What else can I tell you? So, I mean, if you've got ample funds, far be it for me to tell you where you got them, you know, you can handle the bills you're going to hit for a reasonable period of time. You might want to come. I don't know. You got to search the Lord. Just having the money's not enough. You got to have Him be interested in, you know, helping you get here too. It's not just, oh, I got enough money. The Satan bots have enough money. You know, it's deeper than that. So. Um, So there's no real other way to stay here unless you wanted to stay in a hostel. And a hostel is you have a big dormitory room that you share with strangers, and you have shared showers and toilet. And it's fairly stupid because they get $50, $60 a day to sleep in a dormitory room. You know, I have people that contact me and they tell me they want to come here and stay with me and they can afford $18 a day. You know, my electric bill, you'll kill me. I'll be losing money on the electric and the water. I can't do that. You're supposed to give to us here in Israel that are spreading the gospel. We're not supposed to give to you. We can help you. We have an obligation if you come here to help you, but we can't support you. It's very hard here. Really hard. I mean, really, really hard. You know, I mean, I don't even like ordering a pizza. It's like, I don't want to spend the money anymore. So I'm just giving you, expect hardship and great expense if you come here, but it beats staying in another country that's going to have so much trouble with fires and getting invaded and bad weather and all that. So Israel is the safest place to be, but only for true believers that following the real gospel. This would be a good place to be. Probably the only safe place I'm aware of. Only for believers. The others will be cut off. Okay? So, I'm happy to help people. You can write me. My email address is israelgiving with the number 7 at gmail.com. I'm not really positioned to do charitable handouts, so I can't put you up in the guest house and, go in reverse on that, Can't do that. Air conditioning is expensive. The place has 3 air conditioners in it. And if there's, one person in there, they probably just need to run one at a time. But if there's a few people in there, you're going to have to run all 3, and that's expensive. Plus the water for everybody taking showers, washing their hands, going to the bath. Water is not free here. And, there you have it. So, I'll help people any way I can that want to come here. But it's you and the Lord you got to deal with, not me. But I mean, I can help you how to find a place to live. The situation is going to be the realtors are not going to deal with you over the phone. That's just how Israel is. Call me when you get here. They'll talk to you a little bit, and when you get here, they'll deal with you very nicely and cordially, take you around and show you places and stuff like that. Okay? I could help people with a place to live in the guest house until you get settled in. I could maybe come down some on the price, but I don't know. The guest house is a mystery to me. I don't know what happened with the tourism being so bad. Before COVID, the place would rent like wildfire, and now it's rough. People don't want to come because of all the protests and the killings that the Palestinians are doing to people in Jerusalem and the West Bank, and threats of war from Gaza and Lebanon, Syria. They don't want to come. I don't know what else I can tell you. You don't have to live in my area. You can live in Jerusalem. It costs more. You can live in Tel Aviv. You can live in Nahariya on the coast of the Mediterranean. It's 7 miles from Lebanon. You gotta consider that. You can live in Caesarea. You can live in Netanya. You can live in Haifa. There's a million places to live. You could live in Eilat. There's gazillions of places. It's up to you. The only place I know that's really going to be somewhat cheaper is the Negev area, which takes the rockets from Gaza. Down there and around Ashdod and Ashkelon, it'll be somewhat cheaper, but they get rocket attacked frequently, so you gotta look at that. The West Bank, living in the West Bank as a non-citizen of Israel, not a permanent resident, is probably something that's not going to happen. It'll be cheaper, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they'll rent here. I'm not even sure they're allowed to rent. I don't know. Don't plan on carrying weapons with you here. If you have a knife and you carry it, they could give you 5 years in jail. Typically, they'll take the knife away from you and warn you if you're a foreigner. Or they might take the knife away from you and throw you out of the country or something. I don't know. I don't know what else I could tell you about living here. The food's, it's going to be different for a European or an American or a Canadian. It'll be different, but yet, hamburger and all beef hot dogs are not that expensive. And pasta's cheap. Fruit and vegetables are not that high, but they're not cheap. I could turn people on that are living in my area to the free charity for the fruit and vegetables. You get those free, but it takes a while. You got to stock a backlog of that stuff up because you never know what they're going to have. It's usually once a week, and you don't know what they're going to give you. You might wind up getting grapefruit and eggplant, and then the next week you might get onions and garlic, or you might get watermelons. You don't know what. So if you're, after 2 months of it, and you stockpiling different things, then you have the buildup, you have the backlog. We can a lot of the stuff, and a lot of it we put in the freezer. So, if you buy a freezer, freezers are not expensive. What would it cost to furnish your own place here? Well, of course, it depends how big it is and whatnot. Probably $10,000 to get a good job done. That would be to put 2 bedrooms together with good beds and dressers and nightstands. Buy a bunch of fans and electric heaters for the cold weather, and dining room table and kitchen equipment to cook with. Most of the time you have to buy a stove, and you probably want a dishwasher, you need a big refrigerator, and a lot of people want a microwave, some don't. Then, a washer and dryer, a freezer, it's going to cost you furniture and getting all the lamps, and bookcases, and lighting things, and, all that's going to cost you some money. You need to get towels, linen, sheets, pillowcases, towels, it's going to cost you. Now, if you're going to be just by yourself, you're going to probably pay a pittance of that. But you're still going to want a washer and dryer. You're still going to want to need a stove of some sort. You're going to need a refrigerator and an oven. And you might skip the dishwasher, but what are you going to cook with other than the stove? You might want to buy some appliances, like an air fryer or, things of that nature, right? This stuff's not cheap. You know what I'm saying? Then you need to get, probably going to have to get an Israeli phone. Although if you have a phone from another country that is not locked, it's open, then you could probably get away with putting an Israeli chip in, but you need currency converter. Unless you're from Europe, it's not going to run on, I don't know, if you're from America, it's going to run electricity. Europe, it could be the right electricity, but you need a plug adapter because it'll be the wrong plug. Like UK plugs don't work here, but German plugs do. It's EU plug, basically. So there's all kinds of, you gotta buy mops, you gotta buy a broom, things to clean the kitchen with, it could add up, All right, so I'm Moshe, my wife is Rivka. Please pray for us for peace, joy, protection, and safety. Pray for healing of our bodies. Pray for our finances. That's an important prayer. Pray for my wife's new business, which you have been praying for. It is starting to take off. Worst place to go really is, you're just giving me an opinion. You're not giving me any idea why. And scripturally, it's not. It's the best place to live. So there you go. And pray for my wife's new business, and pray for us, and pray for our finances. We really need the prayer there. And pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole, and not run away or fight with each other or the wrong people or whatever. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and pray for better videos. And that's what I got for today, and I send my Shabbat Shalom to all the Yeshua Mashiach and Father God Yoga, and I am out. Okay, also pray that I have an easy time working the banking system here. They've closed so many branches, it's very difficult. It's the difficulty is proximity to the bank and getting there with the parking problems and stuff. So pray that the Lord makes that easy for us, okay? And I'm out. I hope you got something out of this. And, you know, if you're seriously coming here and you think that the Lord wants you to and you can handle it economically,